And at number 10 we have This Is Your Death. Featuring a cover that was basically the 1974 version of clickbait, in this issue a bomb threat is called in when Captain Boomerang is being transported out of a holding cell, which literally has nothing to do with what's on the cover. This issue also features Captain Boomerang angling his body to become a boomerang shape to get away, aerodynamically. Just because you're good at boomeranging doesn't mean you get to be one, Captain Boomerang. And at number 9 we have The Heaviest Man Alive. This one's from November 1962, issue 132 of The Flash, another story that focuses on his weight. So there's this planet called Gobdor that likes to air Earth's natural disasters on their main television network, and after an executive catches wind of the Flash being a little bit of a celebrity on Earth, he decides to use him to get better ratings by putting people in danger, and then shooting radiation at the Flash to make him extremely heavy so he has difficulty running, where he literally sinks into the cement. But if he runs backwards, it reverses the effects, because that makes scientific sense. And at number 8 we've got Music Festivals Aren't Always Fun. This one's from a story called The Evil Sound of Music. Real creative title there, DC. Barry Allen was attending music festivals before it was cool. In issue 207 of The Flash from June 1971, Barry and his wife Iris decide to go to a music festival. But oh no guys, cause Sargon the Sorcerer also goes, and oh god, the drama that ensues. Never want to run into your frenemies at music festivals, totally kills the vibe. Anyway, Sargon uses magic to take control of the music. Demons show up, the music turns to shrieking, and overall, it's just a bad trip. Speaking of skewed marketing, and at number 7 we've got The Doom Scarecrow. This story appears in The Flash 118 from 1961 and features Barry Allen as the Flash in Hollywood, helping out on a movie set as a consultant, because he definitely doesn't have anything better to do with his time, like save lives. Nope. And the Doom Scarecrow? Well, it's a prop that apparently contains evidence, and the Flash needs to save it from a bullet striking it so it doesn't catch on fire, because, you know, the props people just, probably just couldn't shoot it, so that would solve the problem. And at 6 we have The Top is Alive and Well and Henry Allen. So this one is from The Flash 303, Volume 1 from 1981. Barry finds out that his father's been having an affair with a younger woman. After doing some investigating, Barry confronts his father, and turns out his dad is dressed up as the Top. Now Barry previously killed the Top by accidentally giving him brain damage. But don't worry guys, because then Barry finds out that his real father is actually dead and it's just the ghost of the Top inside of his dad's body. That's not traumatic in the slightest. And at 5 we have The Trickster's Toy Thefts. This one from 1965 features the Flash facing off against the Trickster, who has 3 evil, questionable schemes that have to do with theft. And what do these thefts entail? Well, him escaping on a hobby horse, a surfboard, and a tricycle. Classic Trickster. And how does the Flash defeat him? Well, he tries using thumbtacks, which obviously don't work. He just eventually punches him in the face to save the day, but I'm really curious as to why he thought the thumbtacks would be better than, his super speed. Up next at number 4 we have Colonel Computron. Okay, first off guys, look at him. We can all be in agreement that he looks, well, really dumb. Second, when the Flash faces off against him in the early 80s, I guess the writers were like, yo, let's just make a villain that's totally into technology. Cool, what can he do? Well, he'll use video game themed gimmicks. Yeah, great idea, high fives all around. So the Colonel was a toy maker named Basil Nerblin, who worked for a toy corporation and hated his job. He dresses up as one of his toy creations, Captain Computron, seeking revenge from the owner of the toy company, until Flash fights him off. But he literally puts the Flash into a video game. Or rather, reassembles him into living electronic impulses. Yeah. And at 3 is the cancelled Flash TV show. So this is the only one on our list that isn't a comic book. But trust me friends, it's worth it. In 1990 there was a television show created for the Flash that aired on CBS. And it was cancelled only a few months later. This is what it looked like. Yeah. And the most notable star who appeared on the show? Mark Hamill as the Trickster. And at 2 we have the invasion of the cloud creatures. So Barry and Iris go to this lecture that is being held by Dr. Wily Summers. He's been testing volcanic lava and has felt someone's eyes watching him while he's been doing it. So naturally he thinks that there are cloud creatures that are created by volcanoes, and that earthquakes are caused by cloud creatures trying to break out from the ground. Everyone in the scientific community laughs at him, but don't worry, because turns out they are real and they start attacking US Air Force bases. So how does Barry defeat them? Well, he tries creating a tornado to capture them, but it only makes them stronger. So then he jumps from cloud to cloud, attacks the center nucleus, and then turns the cloud creatures into ordinary rain clouds. But, I'm just not gonna question the science behind that one. And finally at number 1 we have the Swell-Headed Superhero. Featured in The Flash volume number 1, 177 from 1968, this issue has the Trickster designed to up his game a bit technology-wise. He exposes the Flash to a camera that gives off radiation. And what does the radiation do? Well, it makes the Flash's head swell up, and it goes huge. This results in some pretty intense headaches for Barry as he chases the Trickster around. Eventually the Trickster kidnaps Barry and brings him to his lab, where Barry notices the headaches have stopped. So he starts whipping dishes at the Trickster and eventually knocks him out with a recliner finer. Then he finds an antidote in the lab which has some residual radiation on it, which is why his headaches had stopped. Yay. And at 10, the trial of the Flash. Time to get homicidal. So the trial of the Flash was part of a story arc that ran for several issues in 1984. Flash kills the Reverse Flash and has to go on a trial for manslaughter, but despite his legal woes, keeps getting attacked by villains in his rogue gallery, which results in his face becoming disfigured. The Kid Flash actually testifies against him on trial too, and it features some of the funniest covers in Flash canon, including him lying in the fetal position in a prison cell. And at number 9 we have Robot Assassination. This one takes place in the future, the year 2971 to be exact, where a robotic John Wilkes Booth is attempting to kill a robotic Abraham Lincoln, who is leader of the Earth West, which he does, and it gets weird. Anyway, the reason they're in the future in the first place is to visit Iris's parents, so I'll just leave you guys with that to think about. Glad that Walking TV though told them that Abe Lincoln died. Always useful. And at number 8 we have the Mirror Master's Magic Bullet. So take a look at this cover from 1961, issue 119 of The Flash. Seems like Mirror Master has found a way to murder the Flash by shooting a bullet through a mirror at him, right? Nah. The story consists of Mirror Man getting his butt kicked by the Flash, and then retaliates by creating a magic bullet that when he shoots it through a mirror image of the Flash, makes the Flash his slave. Because that's not skewed marketing at all. And at 7, Assassinating the President. Almost. This one's from Flash issue 200. Also known as Count 200 and Die. In 1970, a foreign spy named Dr. Lou brainwashes the Flash into thinking he is bringing hairspray to his wife when he is really attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. Common mistake happens to all of us, doesn't it? So this brainwashing makes Flash think that Dr. Lou is his wife, and the hairspray, well, it's actually a laser gun. But don't worry guys, cause Dr. Lou then kisses him and gives herself away, cause it's not the brand of lipstick that Iris usually wears, so Flash snaps out of it, cause lipstick flavors they're not really that different, but I guess we'll let that one slide. And at 6, he gets his leg stolen. In the Flash issue number 146, one of Flash's rogues, Mirror Master, steals his legs, which just so happens to be responsible for his super speed in this one, even though Speed Force. So this issue starts off with Flash taking a success course, and one of his classmates is actually Mirror Master in disguise. But don't worry, because then he reveals himself, goes up in front of the class, gloats for a little bit, and then runs away after using a new mirror weapon that somehow switches their legs. So Mirror Master is crazy fast and knocks out the Flash. But that's fine, because this was all basically for nothing, since they then return to class, Mirror Master has his legs switched back, and then Flash punches him unconscious. Like I said, Silver Age, don't question it. And at 5 we have the Flash vs. Turtle Man. What's the ideal nemesis for the fastest man ever? Oh, a turtle. Yeah, for sure. First appearing in 1956, you can only guess as to how Flash takes this one on. So after Turtle Man robs a bank, the Flash chases him after he escapes via boat. The Flash is like, hey, no problem, I can run across the water because I'm super fast. But turns out his speed actually pushes the boat further away from him, and he literally says, since I can't capture the rowboat by running after it, I'll have to stop it by not running after it. Sheer brilliance. He realizes that that won't work because, you know, he's running on top of water and would fall into it if he stopped, so he just runs circles around the boat instead, creating a vortex, and then catches Turtle Man in his arms and brings him to the police. How romantic. And at 4 we have The Secret of the Empty Box. This one's from DC's Showcase Volume 1, issue number 8, and the story features a giant mystery box that appears in Central City. The whole city loses their Iris is sent out to report on it, and everyone's like, oh, what's in the box? So the Flash investigates, and he finds out that the giant box contains smaller boxes inside of it, and the whole setup was created by crooks using it as a decoy. The best part is they actually put a passage in through the box to a bank vault that they were looking to heist, which, you know, seems wildly impractical if your giant box is meant to be a decoy, but sure. Whatever. And at 3 we have the Flash versus the Top. Speaking of stupid villains, here we have one named the Top that the Flash first encountered in 1961. The Top is a petty crook who liked spinning tops, and he taught himself how to spin real fast to deflect bullets. He tries to blackmail the world, because that's apparently a thing you can do, with an atomic top that, when it slows down, will destroy half of the world. He imprisons the Flash inside of it, but that's cool because then the Flash vibrates out of it. But that's not the end of the Top. How does he die? Well, his brain cells are destroyed by being in close proximity to the Flash's super speed vibrations, which hardcore injures his brain. But that's not where the story ends, oh no. He plants a bunch of bombs around Central City, prepares a recording where he talks about his terminal condition, and then tries to coax other people into defusing the bombs, which has to be done by gathering them and stacking them on top of each other. Cause yeah, that sounds like a plan that won't cause them to explode at all. Flash eventually stops the bomb from exploding, but that doesn't make this whole scenario any less dumb. And at 2, we've got the cosmic treadmill. Once upon a time during the Silver Age, the Flash decided that the best means of cosmic time travel was to use a device so powerful that it could send him into the future. Good idea. But what kind of device would be capable of that? Why, a cosmic treadmill would do the trick. So the cosmic powered treadmill kind of just looks like a regular treadmill, but jazzier. Yeah. He used it to time travel in a storyline called The Conquerors of Time, and while at first readers probably just kinda shrugged it off, this damn thing kept coming back. So what can it do? Well, it travels between multiple Earths, it apparently works by generating vibrations that shifts the user into a specific time, and it's super precise too. It does need someone super fast to run on it though to make it function. And the best part? Its origins are never explained. But why would they be? Because, you know, that's not how the Silver Age worked, friends. And at number 1, that time Superman raced him because the UN wanted it. Oh, come on, DC. The Flash does one goddamn thing and you're gonna let Superman almost emasculate him because Superman just has to be good at everything? So in 1967, in Superman number 199, the UN decides that, hey, let's get the Flash and Superman to race. Yeah, great idea. So they invite the two heroes to the office of the Secretary General, and the Flash and Superman are all like, well, what can we do for you, sir? And the Secretary General says, I called you here to make an important request of you. Yeah, we'll be glad to help the UN in any way, sir. And then the Secretary General is like, good, then you will not mind running a race. Cause, you know, the UN doesn't have better shit should be doing. So they run the race and it's a tie. Rad. But that wasn't the end of that. DC had them race again in the Flash 175 in the exact same year, with the results being a tie again. And then this happened again and again and again in later comics. And the Flash usually won, but barely, including one time where Jay Garrick won because he cheated.
Number 10. Castro and Pals. In a time of tension between the United States and Cuba, DC decided to have Fidel Castro throw Wally West a party for his 21st birthday, after working together with Cuba to fight off an alien invasion. It was just so weird to see some of our favorite heroes partying it up with the Cuban dictator, and it was pretty clear that it was all created to make a point. Now, to DC's credit, it wasn't an anti-Cuba propaganda comic. They even portrayed Castro pretty well, with him coming off as quite dignified. But it was just such a silly idea that seemed so forced and frankly dumb. Number 9. Deathstroke fights. This is hard to include because I love both Deathstroke and the Flash, but their fights can be pretty frustrating as a reader. Because even though Deathstroke is a genius villain, the writers always end up making his plans depend on the Flash being unable to put 2 and 2 together, and usually also require him to be way clumsier than he logically should be. For instance, in one fight, Deathstroke orchestrates a series of explosions in order to manipulate the path of the Flash to cause him to come impaled on a sword. And if that was a normal guy avoiding explosions, I would totally get it. But the Flash is supposed to have insane reflexes. In the moment it took him to get stabbed, he could have pulled down Deathstroke's pants, kicked him in the nuts, and run away. Again, I get that it's hard to write fights with Flash, but I hate that he always ends up looking like a dummy. Number 8. Okay, gonna have to take another moment from Groot number 1 because my goodness was that full of dumb moments. Soon after escaping the shapeshifters, Groot and Rocket find themselves on a planet analogous to Krypton, where we see Kor-El and Zora preparing to send their infant son to Earth so it can survive their planet's imminent destruction, until Rocket and Groot take their only escape pod and doom the child. Again, was this funny? Absolutely. But this was both dumb of them, since they could have taken the kid with them, and incredibly cruel of them, because they could have taken the kid with them. It's just savage. Number 7. Barry Allen's evil twin. In a story that sounds like it comes out of Days of Our Lives, it was revealed that Barry Allen actually had a twin from whom he was separated at birth and who was raised by criminals. His twin went on to start a dynasty of successors who used power-stealing gems to kill descendants of various Flashes throughout time. The whole evil twin thing was just, way too cliche for me. It wasn't really that relevant other than giving a weak explanation for Reverse Flash. Number 6. Rainbow Raider. Rainbow Raider is pretty infamous amongst fans of the Flash for being straight up ridiculous. Roy G. Bigelow, a takeoff on the acronym for the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, had a pretty dumb origin story which is eclipsed only by the silliness of his powers. He was born colorblind and his optometrist father made him a pair of goggles that didn't cure his colorblindness. What they did do, however, is allow him to manipulate light in a bunch of insane ways. While his powers vary depending on the iteration, he's shown the ability to create solid objects out of light, like a flying rainbow, turn people invisible, and even manipulate people's emotions. And what did he do with these powers? Well, petty theft, of course. My question is, why could his father create goggles that have these magical abilities, but he couldn't make them let him see colors? Also, how would a colorblind dude know how to use colors if he can't see them? Ugh. Number 5. Jay Garrick's origin story. Hoo boy, this one's a doozy. Jay Garrick, the original Flash, was a chemist who specialized in gases emitted from hard water. One night he busts out a cigarette while he's working, because the 40s, and he knocks over some chemicals. The gases released cause him to lose consciousness, and he wakes up with superpowers. Here's the thing, he's working with gases that come from hard water, which is basically a scientific way of saying steam. You know where else you encounter steam from hard water? The shower, every morning. I don't know about you, but I haven't noticed any superpowers lately. Plus, I know it's 1940 and smoking was everywhere, but maybe step outside the chemistry lab if you need a smoke. And if you insist on staying in the lab, maybe don't lean right where you keep all your chemicals. Number 4. Hit by the Silver Surfer. At the end of Groot number 2, Groot was hit by a traveling Silver Surfer and his companion Don Greenwood. This was dumb for so many reasons. Not only is it insanely unlikely that Silver Surfer would be anywhere near Groot with the infinite universe for him, but the fact that he literally smacked into him is both statistically unlikely and doesn't really fit Surfer's character. He should be able to avoid a giant tree creature. That said, it led to a pretty neat adventure with Groot teaming up with the Surfer team, and it was a decent issue, so what you gonna do? The Groot comics were goofy, and I'll take a few dumb moments in the name of getting funny Groot comics. Number 3. Wally West outran death. A common complaint about most heroes is that they just seem too powerful to die. In Wally West's case, the writers took this trope even further, having him literally outrun his own death. In case you're not aware, the Black Flash is an incarnation of death itself that comes for those gifted with super speed. But when Black Flash came for Wally, he and his allies fought against it, with Wally eventually racing Black Flash to the end of time and space. Here, death had no meaning and Black Flash disappeared, allowing Wally to survive. I just think it's super dumb that a character can literally outrun death. It just takes away so much tension. Number 2. Fat Flash. In Flash number 115, the fastest man alive became the fattest man alive. In this issue, Barry Allen is shot by Gorilla Grodd using the body of William Dawson with a gun that causes him to absorb the moisture in the air, causing him to swell up. He's later hit with a memory ray, causing him to forget who he was, and he ends up being exploited in a freak show where people paid to gawk at a 1,000-pound blunder. After walking through the Hall of Mirrors, Barry remembers who he is, and he goes into the dehydration room to return to normal size. Then he goes and beats up William Dawson, because he made them all fat and stuff. Obviously this is unrealistic, but that isn't the dumb bit since you have to suspend disbelief with these things. But the whole story is just strange and doesn't really follow itself logically, with the amnesia effects and the hydration effects being taken care of super easily. There's just too much that happened that was way too convenient, so just dumb. Number 1. Puppet Flash. There's just so much stupid in this story that I don't even know where to start. In the Flash number 133, Barry Allen goes up against Abracadabra, the magical puppet master. After watching a show in which a puppet Flash was humiliated by the villainous Captain Cream Puff, Allen tries even harder to clean up the streets to get his cred back. Unfortunately, after running past an enchanted poster, he's turned into a puppet version of himself. He's taken by Abracadabra and forced to participate in the puppet shows, being moved around by strings. Eventually, he manages to break the strings and stumble towards a magician who, for some reason, is unable to outrun a clumsy, stumbling puppet and knocks the puppet master out. Then Barry takes the wand and turns himself back. Okay, first of all, I feel like the Flash should always be trying his best to clean up the streets. He shouldn't need a stupid puppet show to inspire him. Second, why didn't Abracadabra just hit the puppet with a broom or cast a spell on him rather than just going, "Ah!" Finally, the Flash reversed the spell by turning the wand backwards. He literally didn't know how to use the wand, but he went, "Well, he pointed it forwards to turn me into a puppet, so if I turn it backwards, hey, I'm better." So much dumb. Number 10. Fountain drinking. I suppose classifying this as dumb may be a bit of a stretch since, hey, the guy needs water and it's right there, but it's pretty undeniable that he looks ridiculous. Plus, and this is just a personal thing, but either drink from the jet or scoop the water with your hands. What's the point of doing both? You're wasting precious drinking time, Groot. Number 9. Hitchhiker's Groot to the Galaxy. In Groot number 1 from 2015, we saw Groot and Rocket in one of the funniest adventures yet, trying to hitchhike their way across the galaxy. First of all, Groot looks unbelievably adorable in this issue. Second, the whole idea is kinda dumb, but entertaining enough that I accept it. But then they're picked up by a trio of shape-shifting aliens who are basically the Three Stooges. Again, I can't stress this enough, I found this hilarious and enjoyed it, but it was kinda dumb. Especially when Number 8. Flash is a bad boyfriend. In the early Barry Allen comics, it was something of a running gag that Barry was always late. Running gag. The Flash, this is gold. Eventually, after Allen was late once again from stopping Mirror Master, his girlfriend Iris broke up with him. So he went, I guess I'll gaslight her until she takes me back. Using Mirror Master's gadgets, he causes Iris to see his face in every reflective surface she sees, so she takes him back, thinking she subconsciously wants him back. Unfortunately for him, he slips on a mirror before their makeup date, causing him to be late for the date and get dumped again. And let's be real, he kinda deserved it. That's a pretty lame thing to do to your girlfriend. Or ex-girlfriend. Number 7. Okay, the last one from Groot number 1, I promise. It's a pretty easy promise because it's the last panel of the issue. After being attacked by a team of bounty hunters, Rocket gives Groot his booster so that Groot can get help. He says, "Go tell everyone exactly what happened." But then Groot responds with, "I am Groot." And Rocky remembers who it is that he's tasked with explaining something. You basically couldn't have chosen a worse envoy. This was interesting because it wasn't Groot being dumb this time, but Rocket, which is always a welcome breath of fresh air. Number 6. Swimsuit ogling. In the ever-ridiculous Marvel Swimsuit Special number 2, we saw Groot ogling the scantily clad bodies of Aurora and Northstar. And he is so not subtle about it. You just see a giant head staring at them open mouthed. It's pretty ridiculous, and even though this technically isn't the same Groot that we've come to love in Guardians, he's still Groot, and this moment is incredibly dumb for so many reasons, not the least of which being that this comic should not exist in the first place. That said, hey, it gives me an excuse to look at sexy heroines in bathing suits, so I won't complain. And Ghost Rider is smoking hot. Get it? Because of the fire. I'm clever. Number 5. Rocket suddenly gets it. While most of the other items on this list are actually pretty funny and interesting, this is one that actually kind of bothers me. In Groot number 2, we learned how Rocket came to understand Groot's language, and it was way too simple. After being locked up in a cell together for a few months, the two were fighting the guards together, and Rocket just suddenly understood Groot. No build-up, no attempt to learn, he just suddenly got it. I was looking forward to seeing an explanation, and this one was super disappointing and really dumb. Number 4. Mopey. In a failed attempt to retcon Barry Allen's power origin, the alien Mopey was introduced, claiming that it was him who had caused the chemicals to give Allen his super speed. But now, since Barry didn't own the chemicals, he had to pay for them himself, according to alien law. No, Charlie, not bird law. Alien law. Allen had 24 hours to earn enough money to pay the alien back, which he did end up doing, so nothing happened to him. It seems that the writers realized that this whole thing was stupid because a later issue mentioned the hallucinogenic chemical compound monoglycetic peptide enzyme, or MOPE for short. So basically they said, yeah, we messed up, let's just pretend he hallucinated it all. But then where did all the money go? Number 3. Me Our Shrub. This pains me to include because I actually thought it was pretty hilarious, but it's also pretty dumb. In Rocket Raccoon and Groot number 1, Groot hired a team to make a delivery, and this team was none other than Pockets Possum and Shrub. Shrub? Like an actual shrub? Kinda similar to Groot. Oh, and Pockets Possum? Rocket Raccoon. Yeah, they were basically copies of Groot and Rocket. Shrub even speaks in a similar way to Groot, saying, "Me am Shrub." It was pretty dumb and didn't make a heck of a lot of sense, which puts it on this list. But honestly, I really like the comic. Number 2. Rocky spitting on Groot. This bit was really hilarious, and it's just a Groot being dumb moment. After Groot is reborn following his sacrifice against the forces of Phalanx, he's riding around on Rocket's shoulder. Apparently he gets thirsty, so he asks Rocket for moisture, and Rocket responds exactly as you'd expect, by spitting on the tiny Groot. Really, Groot, you should have known better than to give Rocket an excuse to cover you with bodily fluids. Just be glad it was saliva. Number 1. Groot picks up a hitchhiker. In Groot number 4, Groot found those same 3 alien stooges from earlier and takes their ship and them to go find Rocket. But when he sees Numinous, the guiding spirit of the universe, in despair, he can't help but approach her. When she asks if the universe is worth it, Groot, in one incredible utterance of "I am Groot," regales her with a story of struggles and heroics of Marvel's heroes, which was just wonderful, and he manages to convince her to go with him. But then on the next page, she's squished into the ship with Groot and the boys.
And at 10 we have Batman pissed his pants. So while Kevin Smith can be credited for having a really solid and versatile career in the arts, his work on The Widening Gyre has well, some questionable moments, especially when Bats is retelling the story of his first use of pyrotechnics to scare off some criminals. He reveals that the blast of fire was larger than expected, causing him to have a bladder spasm, so he peed his pants. Humanizing or humiliating? You guys tell me. At 9 we have All-Star Batman and Robin. So in this Frank Miller series that came out between 2005 and 2008, Batman is sort of a huge dick to Robin. Well, he's kind of a dick to everybody. But his emotional abuse of his young ward is just, well, impressive at best. While some critics and fans adore the series, you can't deny that Bruce is a little bit more aggressive than his usual self, and produces gems like these. But hey, he is the goddamn Batman after all. He also has sex with Black Canary after setting a bunch of criminals on fire. Whatever floats your boat, Bats.
Number 8. This is one that I'm sure many of you know about, but it's just so dumb I can't leave it off. As you may know, Thanos has kind of a thing for death, even going on a quest to destroy everything in existence to impress her. Yes, her, Death's a woman. Come on, get with the times, it's 2017. Anyway, Thanos realizes that Death is kinda crushing on Deadpool, so he used his power to make Deadpool virtually immortal, so that he could never be with Death. What a punishment. Hey Thanos, Death totally said I'm hot. Can you make me immortal too?
At 7 we have Batman and Superman cry over tentacles. It's arguable that World's Finest is a little notorious for some crazier moments. The story starts off with Batman and Superman being kind of sad, so Clark's like, let's do some male bonding at the Fortress of Solitude. And while they're there, a meteor is about to crash on Earth. The two investigate and find out that there's these tentacled creatures inside of it. And after a bit of a fuss and a bit of a battle, the two learn that the tentacles are actually alien probes created by the Krill, a race that needs to leech emotions from Earthlings. But the tentacles, who understand the meaning of life, sacrifice themselves in order to not damage Earth and its inhabitants, which causes Clark and Bruce to have a good cry over it. Beautiful, beautiful moment. Up next at 6 we have Batman Sings Christmas Carols. From Batman 219 in 1970, there's a story called The Silent Night of the Batman, where no one in Gotham commits crimes cause it's Christmas. Batman belts out some Christmas carols with the GCPD, and just look at his face, guys. He's so into it, and they spend the whole night doing it. It's like super adorable. And at 5 is Shark Repellent. Back in the 60s, Batman went through a particularly campy time period. Frederick Wortham and the Comics Code Authority were mainly to blame for this and some of the more ridiculous moments throughout the Silver Age that he encountered. So needless to say, this isn't the last time we'll be visiting Mr. West in the 1966 Batman the movie on this list. There's a scene where Batman is attempting a rescue on a yacht when he gets attacked by a shark. And how does he get out of this one?
Hand me down the shark repellent!
Well, he uses shark repellent.
Number 4. Ice-T is an X-Man. Well, not really. But apparently Deadpool gets him mixed up with the X-Men. In 2008's Deadpool number 17, when Deadpool was trying to kill Kincaid in the name of the X-Men, to convince his inner monologue that it's okay to kill the police officers that were after him, he claims that the X-Men kill cops and that they even wrote a song about it. To which the inner voice says, that was Ice-T. But hey, Ice-T, Iceman, I can understand the confusion. Plus, he, like the X-Men, has a penchant for black leather. Man, is Ice-T an X-Man?
And at 3 is Rainbow Batman. From the 1957 Detective Comics issue 241, this one's just a good old fun time. So Robin is off saving a girl's life during a robbery, and does some real detective work when he starts tracking down the robbers afterwards. Meanwhile, Batman is at the Batcave having a real hard time picking out his costume. Yes, actually a thing. He's trying to decide which of his new rainbow colored costumes to wear. Fashion, it's the real villain. So Robin's like, hey dude, we should probably do something about the fact that these robbers are like a lot of trouble. And Batman's like, hey buddy, you got a busted arm and the colored costumes are supposed to deter away from you so they won't know who your secret identity is. So like, it was all totally part of the plan. Sure Bruce, that's why. And at 2 is Zebra Batman. In our number 2 spot, we have a Batman moment that Robin is finally like, nope, not cool with this. About damn time, buddy. So there's this dude named Zebra Man who charged his body with energy so that lines of force rippled through his costume. He was able to control it via a button on his belt. But when he fought Batman, Bats was exposed to the lines of force, which altered his own body and costume, giving him the same ability, except without the control over the energy. And anything that comes near him would just go flying. So Robin's like, yep, I'm gonna keep my distance on this one. And then there's a whole panel where Bruce is really upset and is all like, I'm a menace to anyone who comes near me. Eventually the effects were reversed, but things got real awkward for a while and Bruce wasn't able to eat anything, which just sucks. And finally at our number 1 spot is the bomb. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Another fun scene from the 1966 Batman the movie. Here we have Adam West's Batman running around the city with a lit bomb trying to find a place to leave it. It even spawned a meme. So why is it dumb? Well, let's let the scene do the talking.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
And booby traps. This one's taking a break from the comics. In the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, we saw Deadpool fighting Spider-Man. At one point, a trap was sprung with arrows shooting at them, so they dive into water that turns out to be piranha infested, and they get bit. They shake off the fish, and Spidey mutters, "Booby trap." And of course, Deadpool starts laughing. Why is he laughing? Well,
You said traps!
I mean, trap is a pretty funny word. Number 9. It's just a mask, dude. In Deadpool number 9, Deadpool had just finished flirting with Black Widow, with some success actually, and was listing off their similarities like, we're both into guns, we both like kicking people, when he was interrupted by Taskmaster, who drops a bomb with, you both have faces that make children cry. Oh wait, that's just you. Damn! Then in an uncharacteristically non-clever retort, Deadpool replies, oh, you're one to talk with that stupid skeleton face on your face? Oh, you mean this mask that I can take off? Taskmaster. Yeah, that was pretty dumb. Wait.
Up next, number 8, we have Batman Odyssey. Hey, you know what sounds like a really good idea in theory? A Ulysses version of Batman. And in practice? Well, apparently it means he rides dinosaurs, and meets Egyptian gods, and fights a telepathic Cyclops. And for whatever reason, there's a whole lot of nude, hairy Bruce Wayne throughout. Sounds like a good time.
Number 7. Deadpool is a great dad. And by great, I mean terrible. In 2014's Deadpool number 34, Wade had a heart-to-heart with his daughter Eleanor, and he's just the worst role model ever. First, he gives her the lovely piece of wisdom that she should always carry a knife in her shoe for good luck. Then he does his own version of a pull my finger joke involving said knife. You know where that's going. While she does seem to laugh it off, these are not the type of life lessons you should be giving to your impressionable child. Number 6. Nicknames are hard. In A+X number 8, Deadpool is working alongside Hawkeye, and he tries to come up with a nickname for him. But apparently it's super hard because Hawkeye has heard all of them. How often do people call you Legolas? All the time. Nice shooting, Hunger Games. Heard it. Brave, the girl from Brave. Sorry, man. Man, I can totally relate. I grew up with the name Ron. Do you know how many times I was called Ronald McDonald? Do you understand the trauma one faces when people sing this stupid frickin' Harry Potter Puppet Pals song every time they meet me? Ron, Ron, Ron Weasley. Oh, stop. Number 5. Pancake time. When Domino was sent to invite Deadpool to join the X-Men, he had a different idea. He had previously cooked up 372,844 pancakes and put them in a pool. It was all part of the plan. He was then on a rooftop when Domino came to talk to him, and he threatened her with his gun, forcing her onto the glass roof, then caused her to fall into the pool of pancakes. And you may be thinking, well, that's pretty weird that he made them just for a dumb joke, but it's even dumber than that because they weren't even meant to be part of the joke. He just straight up made them because he was bored.
And at 4, we have Bat Baby. This is one of my personal favorite Batman moments. A product of the Silver Age, this story from Batman 147 in 1962 features Bruce being shrunk down to the size of a toddler. He escapes from the fight with Robin carrying him in his arms, with his batsuit draping over him because now he's all little. But don't worry guys, that won't stop the Dark Knight. He's quick to realize that he's still capable of the same amount of physical strength, because that makes logical sense, right? And decides he still wants to go out and fight crime. And Robin's all like, yeah, that seems like a totally plausible idea, let's do it. And he goes along with it. But what do they do about his batsuit? Well, Batman instead rocks some overalls, as one does. Eventually he's returned to his normal size, but keeps the Bat Baby costume as a trophy in the Batcave, which is kinda weird.
Number 3. That time he tried to prevent the creation of more heroes by killing the fictional characters that inspired a number of the heroes. In Deadpool Killustrated, we see Deadpool going metacidal, killing a whole whack of our favorite fictional characters from various books, slicing out Don Quixote's eye, tearing through Moby Dick's blowhole, even stabbing Pinocchio in the head, and momentarily seeing him as his inspired hero vision. Don't get me wrong, this whole series was absolutely amazing. It was so sick seeing what characters inspired what heroes. But the dumb thing is the premise of why he was sent there in the first place. The scientists working for him thought that since he knew his own world too well, sending him to another world could confuse him enough to let them defeat him. But they knew if he killed the Ideaverse, it would erase a bunch of their world. And they still sent him there, rather than, I don't know, putting him in a steel room and never letting him out. Kinda dumb. Number 2. Gotta have my hippity hops. In Deadpool Suicide Kings number 1, Deadpool was offered a very lucrative job, where he would receive $1 million for saving a young rich man's family. At first he was reluctant to take the job. What changes his mind? He imagines what he could do with $1 million. And what he imagines is him on a hippity hop surrounded by sexy ladies who are also on hippity hops. And then he asks where one would buy hippity hops in bulk. Yeah, that's a wise economic choice. Number 1. Genius tactics to cushion your fall. In 2013's Deadpool number 10, Deadpool found himself falling off a building, but he comes up with an amazing plan to help him fall to safety. He decides to eject his poo to make him lighter. This sounds pretty dumb, but if I'm being honest, if I found myself falling off a building, I'd likely find myself ejecting my poo whether I plan to or not. But I'm not convinced it would actually work.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have the zebra print suit. So ever since those party rock guys started shuffling around town, we've seen a lot of teens rocking the zebra print look. And while it might be a nice way to draw attention to your legs and maybe your fresh new clean white Vans, it's not the best look for, say, I don't know, a batsuit. So yeah, back in 1960, we got the pleasure of meeting Zebra Man, who's a villain that uses magnetic lines of force after he created a device that granted him these magnetic powers. So Batman and Robin both got a close-up look at this machine, and maybe Batman got a little bit too close because his suit and skin turned into the same zebra stripes that we saw. So now we have Zebra Batman. The only difference was he didn't have the belt that Zebra Man used, so he wasn't able to control said new powers. And it just looked, well, you know how it looks. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and smash that like button right down below, because it helps us out quite a lot here in the studio. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being fans. Now let's get back to some Batman suits. Number 9, 1940s serial batsuit. So the first ever live action Batman was played by an actor named Lewis Wilson back in 1943. And he was part of this 15-chapter serial from Columbia Pictures, and included Douglas Croft as Robin as well. And I'll get into the suit design in just a sec, but let's just talk about the storyline first. I mean, we have the Batman during World War II, and he's trying to take down Agent Dr. Dacca and put an end to his plans. See, this was right after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and Dr. Dacca was operating a sabotage ring in Gotham City. So naturally, it's time to suit up. Now fans look back at the costume design and cringe. I mean, nowadays everything is so sleek and military, so when you see this, it comes off as a little silly. I mean, the arms and legs are baggy. It looks like a bat suit your uncle pulls out every Halloween. You know, the same one he's had for like 50 years. And the belt too? Dude, how the hell are you sneaking up on some crooks when you're literally wearing a disco ball for a belt? You'll blind them before anything. They won't even see you coming. They won't have eyes left. What does it for me personally is the uneven bat ears. It looks like a Great Dane when its ears are taped up when it's young.
Number 8, Heroes Reborn. In 1996, Marvel created the controversial Heroes Reborn event/storyline in an attempt to reboot some of their characters. Tony Stark was no exception, and he was reborn in a new universe where he was even more of a selfish jerk than usual. And when he was wounded in an attack, Tony took up a special suit of armor to become a hero. Referred to in the storyline as the Prometheum armor, this rather unique looking suit was exclusive to the Heroes Reborn universe and honestly wasn't too well received. While most of Iron Man's armors tend to be clean and simplified in appearance, the Heroes Reborn armor took a different approach, with steel cords, lots of tubing, and 2 just massive exhaust pipes on the back that allow the armor to release heat. Though just a prototype, Tony was required to wear this armor's chest plate at all times in order to keep his heart beating and his lungs functioning properly. The suit didn't have an arc reactor and had to constantly be recharged in order to keep pumping. Overall, this armor was overly bulky and not visually appealing in the slightest. Instead of the more streamlined direction the armors had been going in, this one takes a step backwards, adding in musculature and separate plates that made it just way too complicated. Check it out for yourself in 1996's Iron Man Volume 2, Number 1.
Number 7, Azrael. Better known as John Paul Valley, he is a vigilante who resided in Gotham City. See, after Bane broke Batman's back, he took on the mantle in the Nightfall story arc. See, John Paul was able to defeat Bane when he stepped up to the bat, pun intended, and he replaced the Caped Crusader. But in doing so, he made more than a few changes to the suit. Technical changes, but also, of course, design. So the final product had him looking like a cross between Batman and like an Autobot. He has the blue and yellow metallic armor, which looks like a hot mess already, and on top of it he even added other gadgets in, like he added claws, dual mag weapons, and of course a cape that definitely does not work in terms of, you know, aviation. That's not gonna fly. That's literally not gonna fly. Sure, he made the Nightfall story arc interesting, but if we're looking at just suits here, this takes the cake easily on this list. Number 6, oh yeah. Number 6, Batman Forever. Of course, on a list about Batsuits, we must bring up the suit that changed our childhoods forever. The one with the bat nipples. Sounds like a Friends episode that didn't make it. The late Joel Schumacher did Batman Forever in 1995, and Val Kilmer was a pretty fun Batman. Jim Carrey was a pretty fun Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones was... It was the 90s, okay? It was weird. The weirdest detail of this version of Batman's suit has to be this. I mean, we don't need nipples on the suit. We just don't need them. We don't at all. Even if they did somehow help with chafing, they would have to be perfectly lined up all day. I would be fixing that every 15 seconds. He said he sent costume maker Jose Fernandez photos of Greek statues and opted for more of an anatomical look, hence the, shredded abs. And then when he saw the nipples on the suit, he thought, that's cool. Those right there, those some cool nipples. And he's still glad that he did it to this day. Well, so are we, because now we can talk about it some more in this lovely list. Number 5, Batman and Robin. Another late Schumacher film. Okay, another suit to talk about. It's kind of hard not to talk about the costume details when it shows all the details very close up. I mean, some of the shots we get here, I swear I can smell the fabric. Like, imagine if 3D was this advanced back then. Oh my god, you'd look in your popcorn and find Robin's ass. You're like, how did this get here? The suits changed from Michael Keaton's version, yet somehow they got worse? It got worse. So now George Clooney was rocking this hard plastic nipply looking suit, and even better, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl and Chris O'Donnell as Robin sported the same design near the end of the film. Just in case, one new suit wasn't enough. I get it, I mean the new suits are supposed to prevent against frost damage, all that jazz, but how much damage protection do we need down there, guys? I mean, I know you're George Clooney and all, but like, that's a lot of armor for,
Number 4, Mark 6 Hydro Armor. So usually whenever Tony has to go underwater, he just dives right in and the armor protects him. However, in a few cases, Tony has had to dive pretty deep into the ocean, and obviously the pressure could crush even a regular armored suit with ease. So Tony wound up creating a special armor built to withstand those pressures, which became the Mark 6 Hydro Armor. The Hydro Armor has all the standard features of the regular Iron Man suits, but reconfigured to be more effective underwater. That means there's carefully adapted repulsor beams, more life support, grapples, a feature that fires an underwater electric shock, and the ability to release an inky chemical like an octopus. The armor is treated with lights and a bioluminescence to allow Tony to see in the pitch darkness of the oceans. It's also maneuverable enough for Tony to handle fighting whales, sharks, or the Submariner himself. He doesn't use it as often as other armors, but this suit proves Tony can handle pretty much any environment pretty well. Now, why is this armor dumb, you ask? Well, like I said, he doesn't use it too often, but also because he's wearing armor just inside another armor. You can imagine how uncomfortable that would be, and honestly, you'd think with those seemingly endless resources, he would just make one that just did everything. Check out the first Hydra armor in 1987's Iron Man number 218.
Number 3, all of the colors. So in 1937 issue 241 of Detective Comics, we find Batman on the cover with quite the dilemma. It's a dilemma we're all probably used to by now. He changes up the colors of his costume quite a few times in here, but why? Maybe he wore a similar color the day before, or hey, maybe on Wednesdays he wears pink. You never know. Or maybe this has something to do with the Comics Code Authority. See, in order to appeal to the public eye that comics weren't just this dark and gritty thing, they tried to change up his outfit a few times to keep it fun. Hey, it's pink now, look, we're having fun. So in this issue, we have Robin hurting his arm, but we also have Batman sporting some fun new colorful suits. Eventually, just putting all the colors together and rocking the infamous rainbow suit, which I'm a fan of. If you can't pick one color, pick them all. Let's go. The only reason I have to include the rainbow suit on a list about the worst Batman suits is because it hurts your eyes to look at no matter what page it's on. See, some sequences show Batman punching a criminal and the yellow background blends in with the yellow part of his costume. Same goes for any background color really. Like, if I was standing here in front of a green screen with all the colors on, green would just be really hard to focus on. It would blend in with the background. It's why we don't wear green in any videos, because it looks like that in the background. So the rainbow outfit was thought to be left in the late 50s, but it made a fashionable return in Francis Manipal's Trinity issue 1. Number 2, Stan Lee's Batman. The late Stan Lee had his take on the Caped Crusader back in 2001, and DC Comics asked him to reimagine all their famous heroes as if he had done it himself, which sounds like a pretty exciting event. So he came up with Wayne Williams, a cross between Luke Cage and, of course, Bruce Wayne. And we see these in action in Just Imagine Volume 1. So he was convicted of a crime he didn't do, and then learned a few skills in the slammer while he was serving. And then when he was released, he first made a costume and tried to make some money wrestling. Okay, sounds familiar. Homemade costumes, some wrestling. If you're into a Batman that looks more like an actual bat, this is a great place to go. And finally, number 1, Bat Baby. Issue 147 of Batman, right on the cover, we see regular size Robin rocking a regular size Robin outfit, and then we see a Bat Baby with a Bat Baby suit to complete the picture. Look out, it's Bat Baby and Robin? Question mark? That's what a bystander is shouting right on the front cover and all. So what's going on here? Why is Batman wearing jean short overalls? Why is he a baby? Also, why is he a child? Turns out Nails Finney brought them into a trap, and now Batman has shrunk down to the size of a small child. Little baby. What's even better about this whole ordeal is that he still has the strength of a full-grown Batman. So he can kick your ass. He's just tiny. And the headlines were amazing in the news that week. Even in the comic, it says, "Gangland turns Batman into baby." And then the photo is just Batman all moody standing there like, I don't know why he's moody, like he's still the same Batman, he's just small. Actually, you know what? I do know why he's moody. He's an infant. So Robin at one point even has to carry Batman to the Batmobiles, like carry him, because his little fat baby legs can't get him around so fast. So what does Batman do? He embraces it. He's like, fine, I'll dress like a baby. That's what you want, that's what you get. And he does well, or he does okay, rather. Yeah, one of the headlines that you see next reads, Bat Baby does okay for a kid. I mean, he's okay. He just rode a balloon up into the air and then took out 3 criminals as a baby, but definitely just okay, A-okay. The only soft spot on this Batman is the one on the top of his head.
Number 10, Mark 1 Model 3. Okay, I want to get it out of the way right now that I am in no way talking smack about the design of the original Iron Man suit. I mean, although it was bulky and cumbersome, it's absolutely an iconic design, and more importantly, it was built with a purpose. Tony found himself in a bad situation and needed to escape, so he built an armor out of any materials available to him. Makes absolute sense. The quote-unquote upgraded gold version of this suit, however, not so much. Tony decided that the gray color of his armor was far too scary, or I guess he was kind of told that because the biggest inspiration for this redesign came from a date with Marion Rogers, who told Tony that Iron Man could really use a nice paint job, so that he'd better resemble a knight in shining armor. Tony obviously took this to heart, and the gold armor was born because he thought it would make him a more approachable hero. This design obviously didn't stick around for too long, as not long after he adopted the first iteration of the classic red and gold color scheme that the world now knows so well and loves. Fun fact though, the gold-plated armor is actually the reason Iron Man has the nickname the Golden Avenger. Check out the Mark 1 in its first appearance in 1963's Tales of Suspense number 39. Number 9, Mark 33 Submarine Argonaut. The Mark 33 armor isn't the first deep sea variant of the Iron Man armor, but it is pretty bad if I do say so myself. It is one of the 5 different Iron Man armors that Tony created from the Argonaut series, developed to augment his extremist-based armor technology. The Submarine Argonaut was a yellow armor that had clawed hands and feet, was capable of a little bit of camouflage, and had a deep sea range of about 2,563 meters. Basically, it was a pressurized suit that allowed Tony to operate in the deepest depths of the ocean. Now why is this a dumb armor, you ask? Well, mostly because Tony never actually got around to using it, or any of the 5 Argonaut suits for that matter. The armors were instead triggered via remote when the son of Ho Yinsen was shot and killed by SHIELD forces. This armor then attacked Namor and was later destroyed by Iron Man himself and left to sink to the bottom of the ocean, and has not been seen since. It was just kinda left there. Check out this sad underwater armor for yourself in its first appearance in 2006's Iron Man Volume 4, number 7.
Number 8, Sir William. This one comes straight from Earth 9, and DC says that this universe still exists, which is pretty neat. So basically the idea was in 1997, DC Comics launched Tangent Comics, which was a new take on our hero's origins. We all love those. So as you guessed from the name Sir William, this Batman was fresh out of the Arthurian times. Sir William was a knight of King Arthur's Round Table who had to pay for some previous faults. See, Morgan Le Fay seduced him and convinced him to fight King Arthur using her magic. So, not a nice guy. He's actually probably great, I don't know. So he was confined to his own castle, which as far as groundings go, not that bad. I mean, I never got to hang out in Castle Bat when I got grounded growing up, so what the hell is this? Sir William discovered that he had the ability to project his spirit into his armor and have it walk free. Kind of like the pair of pants from Disney's Onward, you know, the pants that just walk around? It's kind of like that, except less sad. And as far as Batsuit designs go, this one is just messy. I mean, the spikes on the shoulders are just covering your blind spots, not to mention the added weight, the Mohawk helmet as well. I mean, I think it's gonna be a no from me in terms of design. But he's mastered sword fighting, okay? I'll give him that. he can sword fight. That's pretty cool. We all love swords.
Number 7. Mark 52 Hulkbuster Car. Now if you're not familiar with this armor, don't worry, I also didn't know it existed until today. The Mark 52 is actually just the Mark 44 Hulkbuster seen in the MCU, but unlike the MCU's take on the comics Hulkbuster, this suit was also a car for some reason. Yep, that's right, what looks just like a simple flying car is actually a fully functioning Iron Man armor that could be deployed from the push of a button. Now in its vehicle form, the armor can achieve flight with the use of 2 repulsor turbines on its bottom, and then by pressing the button on the car's panel, the entire thing transformed into a Hulkbuster armor in a matter of seconds. It's basically just a transformer. This marked the first time a suit of armor in the Marvel Universe continuity was adapted from the MCU. While certain artists' depiction of the Iron Man armor Mark 42 included a helmet design lifted from the standard Iron Man helmet outline used in the MCU, the Mark 52 is the first armor with a design taken straight and entirely from the films. Now why Tony decided he needed another Hulkbuster at this point in time is beyond me, because he certainly was not fighting any big bad guys. But also why he thought it needed to be a flying car as well just makes absolutely no sense. Like, he really wasn't struggling for any money because he had just sold Stark Tower at the time, and I don't know, maybe he just wanted to see if it was possible. Either way, check it out for yourself in 2016's all new, all different Avengers number 1. Number 6. Ablative Armor. This is another one of Tony's armors that wasn't supposed to be dumb, silly, or weird, it just kind of turned out that way. The Ablative Armor was a prototype space armor designed for an impact-heavy environment. It's made up of tiled pieces that could be manipulated by a force field to dynamically protect him from projectile attacks, while also being used as ranged weapons as well. Basically picture those bicycle helmets that were specifically designed to break on impact, as a way to absorb the shock of the crash and thus protect the bicyclist's head. That's the sort of design Tony was going for with this armor, made entirely of little tiles that are designed in such a way to, you guessed it, break on impact. Once a tile is broken, it pops off and another one slides into its place, and new tiles are constantly being generated. And they're even capable of separating from the armor and, kind of just doing their own thing. There's no doubt that it's a unique concept and might be one that Tony would come back to later on, but it's a little bit clunky and overall just a little nightmarish to look at. Take a look for yourself, starting with its first appearance in 2003's Iron Man Volume 3, number 71. Number 5. 1602 Armor. I think that everyone can see what Neil Gaiman and Adam Kubert were going for with the Iron Man design from the 1602 miniseries. It is a steampunk-esque design from the Middle Ages, and that sounds like a great idea on paper, but in execution it's actually very over-designed and somehow more complex in the Mark I armor. In the world of 1602, Anthony Stark is Lord Iron, a man who was taken captive during the Anglo-Spanish War and forced to make weapons, after being subjected to torture by this universe's version of Bruce Banner named David Banner. Later on, after Banner becomes the Hulk, Stark is summoned by the King of England to track Banner down. Needing some sort of protection in order to survive, Stark dons his iron armor that is powered by lightning bottles that provides him with super strength and near invulnerability alongside a couple other fun electricity powered gadgets. Stark eventually found the Hulk, and despite his pleas for forgiveness, Stark continued to attack him until a much bigger threat forced the two of them to team up. With a busy paint scheme and design, the 1602 armor ends up making Iron Man look a bit like a Doctor Who villain, which probably wasn't the intention, and that is why it's on this list today. Check it out in 2005's Marvel 1602, New World number 2.
Number 4. Jim Gordon. So after the events of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Endgame storyline, we found a new home for the Batman cowl. This time around, it belongs to former police commissioner Jim Gordon. See, his initial batsuit is actually pretty neat. It complements his lanky body, the all-black look with the dark yellow outlines, and no cape. Thank God, I'd rather have Batman with no cape than a cape that looks like it got shredded by a velociraptor. Any day. I'm a fan of his entire look here, okay? Now, if we did a list of the best Batman suits, I would for sure throw this one on there. Now, unfortunately, he also has this military suit that he uses over top of that already existing cool one. They purposely designed it so it wouldn't look like Iron Man, and that worked. I mean, mostly. So the powerful armor got the job done, but it looked clunky. It didn't look nice. Fans didn't like the giant bunny ears, and they could for sure go without the War Machine type missile shoulder pads. Great storyline again, but seeing him disappear into that armor brought a frown to my face every time I turned the page.
Number 3. Mark 19 Skin Armor. Now it seems to me that Tony Stark is really into that whole metal but make it weird concept when it comes to his armors, and that is definitely seen in one of his earliest experiments with that concept, the skin armor. This suit was made of an adaptive liquid alloy that could simultaneously become as hard as adamantium and yet stay flexible enough to bounce and bend comfortably. It's a super cool concept and made for a pretty badass suit since it featured some upgraded versions of Stark's existing tech and was able to be controlled remotely. However, the way this suit formed is actually what makes it a rather dumb design. Basically, Basically, the flexible ally only formed the gold sections of his armor, and would only harden or form around the red parts on command, meaning that Tony would be running around like looking half dressed most of the time, which is pretty ridiculous. Check it out for yourself in 2001's Iron Man Volume 3 number 42, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Number 2. Iron Lantern. Hailing from Marvel and DC's amalgam universe comes Harold Stark, a combination of Hal Jordan and Tony Stark, who acts as a hero under the name of Iron Lantern. In this reality, Stark was injured after an alien ship crashed into Earth, and in an attempt to stay alive, he made an armor out of the wreckage of the ship, using the Lantern power battery he found as the power source. This suit not only allowed him to survive, it also granted him all of the powers of the Green Lantern. Using these newfound powers, Stark was operating as the Iron Lantern and took down many powerful enemies such as Madame Sapphire, Great White, and of course his arch nemesis, Mandarin Estro. Now I want to get it out of the way that I love the Amalgam Universe. I've talked about it in so many other videos, but honestly this hero just isn't doing it for me. Iron Man's calling card is that he's just a man, but with that ring, the iron seems pretty redundant and kind of eliminates the humanity imbued into Tony Stark. Check it out for yourself in 1997's Iron Lantern, number 1. And number 1, the Sniff Buster. Now you're probably sitting there like, what are you talking about? That doesn't exist. And I mean, technically you're right since I completely made up the name, but it'll all make sense once I explain the suit a little bit more. For a period of time, Iron Man's armor had a big old nose on the front of it. The true story is that Stan Lee, upon seeing an Iron Man cover, made an offhand comment asking, hey, where's the nose? Meaning that he thought the helmet just looked a little bit too snug to Tony's face for a nose to fit. However, this comment was misinterpreted terribly by others as meaning that Stan wanted a nose on the armor, so it ended up being added. They forced an in-story explanation for the iron nose, with Tony stating that he redesigned the mask to allow for a bit more expression, which would thus increase the fearsome aspects of his character. To no surprise, no one in the Marvel Universe bought it, and many characters remarked how ridiculous Iron Man's nose hole made him look. Luckily, the nasal armor was relatively short-lived and has not re-emerged since. Go take a look at it for yourself in 1974's The Invincible Iron Man number 68.
Starting off our list is the most current series of the franchise, Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel. Despite trying to echo in the essence of ninja apparel, the costumes go off the rails a little bit. Their sashes all look like horrible ninja star meets Beyblades gone wrong. And some of their helmets feel reminiscent of the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. They're just horribly designed, to be honest. The whole season has a selection of cringeworthy outfits for the Rangers, including this black hooded getup, which looks like it's made from foam rather than anything substantial, and their morphin armor, which is at least a bit more bearable than their regular armor.
Up next, number 9, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. When you think of the Power Rangers, it doesn't seem likely that Charlie Brown comes to mind. But apparently, this 1999 series wanted to bridge that previously non-existent gap by borrowing his iconic jagged line designs and slapping them on these suits. Luckily, not all of their outfits are a steaming pile of garbage though. The Magna Defender, who rocked a cape, wasn't too shabby, and the Rangers' helmets were a bit of a saving grace, featuring some redeemable designs. Up next, number 8, the Days of Future Past Logan. This one feels less costume or civilian, but it's still pretty awesome. It's a flight jacket with yellow gloves and matching brown pants. This Wolverine captures that gruff, iconic look of his that is translated in many an adaptation of the character, including cinematic ones, but more on that later. This is the Days of Future Past timeline, also known as Earth 811, a future dystopian where mutants are incarcerated in internment camps, with the plot mainly following an adult Catherine Pryde transferring her mind into her younger present-day self in order to prevent a fatal moment in the timeline from occurring that would trigger the anti-mutant hysteria. Wolverine's outfit is very on the run, not drawing attention to himself like some of his other iconic looks. Despite this, it's an outfit that we kind of want to own ourselves. Up next, number 7, Power Rangers Pirate Armada. Based off the Japanese version and its 35th anniversary pirate motif, the Pirate Armada series features outfits that are just comical. For starters, their belts are part of their transformation process. Characters will pop in little old Power Ranger action figures into what appeared to be a weird rectangle box thing, and then they would become these swashbuckling heroes. Plus, their outfits were adapted to pirate-esque jackets with popped collars, and it's a little douchey.
At number 6, we've got Power Rangers Wild Force. From decent helmets to laughable ones, our number 8 spot got a little too crazy with the theme of Wild Force. Shark helmet, anyone? Well, that's not the only animal they took inspiration from. There's also a hawk, a bull, and a tiger helmet that are equally unfortunate, and these days really haven't aged well. They feel more like a knockoff of Black Panther outfits than notable Power Ranger threads.
Up next, number 5, Power Rangers Jungle Fury. Speaking of Black Panther knockoffs, Jungle Fury feels like the dollar store version of the Marvel hero combined with horribly designed ninja gear with just a little pinch of race car driver aesthetic, which isn't pleasant. It's all over the place. The white and purple Power Rangers outfits are arguably the most laughable, but shout out to the Spirit Rangers who all feel a little bit like they crawled out of a low-budget Shape of Water meets Kung Fu movie. Moving on to number 4, the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. What would our list be without taking some time to look at the costumes worn by Hugh Jackman in Fox's cinematic adaptations of the X-Men? While some of Jackman's Wolverine wardrobe has been more missed than hit, there has been plenty of hits over the years. There's the awesome leather X-Men uniform suits that appeared in both the first and second Fox X-Men films, although we'd have to argue that the second is our favorite. There's the leather jacket Wolverine from X-Men Origins Wolverine that didn't quite make up for how bad the film was, but he still rocked it well. And let's not forget, no one has ever made a white tank top and jeans look more heroic. Plus, there's plenty of variations of that. Shirtless Wolverine running around in a pair of jeans while pulling off those classic poses of his, showing off those pecs and abs. Yeah. But don't get us started on the unused suit that appeared in the briefcase at the end of the Wolverine film. We're still salty about the fact that it never really came out of that case. It could have been so good. Up next at 3, Power Rangers Zeo. Zeo is what nightmares are made of. From their odd Aztec-inspired breastplate designs to their unfortunate visor pieces and their helmets, I don't even want to know the logic behind that one. Perhaps the most terrifying aspect of these costumes is the odd little lips that are supposed to emulate the mouthpieces that other successful suit designs manage to pull off. These mouthpieces fall short and are just downright derpy.
At number 2, Power Rangers Megaforce. 2013's Megaforce was supposed to be a special series. It was the 20th anniversary season and it was supposed to adapt the 2010 acclaimed Super Sentai series. While some parts of the Megaforce suits make sense, i.e. the helmet mouthpieces that are similar to the ones from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers suits, almost everything about these suits don't make sense. There are a lot of extra details going on here that feel over the top and excessive, especially their chest emblems. And the weapons feel like they're giant plastic toys, don't they? But perhaps the worst detail is the pants and skirts. The pants for the gents sit way too high and the skirts look redundant and cheap. Both make the top parts of their outfits look like sad, tight crop jackets.
And finally, in our number 1 spot, Dino Charge. Taking it one step further into atrocious territory, nothing quite tops the armor from 2014's Dino Charge. For a show that is seriously lacking in quality VFX, I wouldn't expect much to begin with anyway. So, where to begin with these outfits? The sashes are ridiculous, the dinosaur graphics look cheap, the scaled sleeves are painful, and the one spiky shoulder pad? Yeah, no thanks. The one redeeming quality is their helmets, but even that can't save these suits from being downright awful. If you can get past the suits though, the show itself was one of the better recent series of Power Rangers, and worth a watch. Just kind of unfortunate for your eyes. Starting us off in at number 10, the Tiger Stripe. Let's start off our list with the OG Wolverine suit. His first appearance outfit, the original Tiger Stripe costume, also known as the original yellow and blue. This appeared in 1974 in the Incredible Hulk issue 180 when he first debuted, clashing with the Hulk initially, but then working with the big green monster to take out a Wendigo. This tiger suit is more animalistic than some of the other variations, thanks to his cowl's cat-like aesthetic and detail. Look at those whiskers. His eyes are visible too, and his cowl points are less prominent. This brief story arc is the only time that we see him don this costume though, because when he appeared next in Giant Size X-Men, his whiskers were ditched, and a more subtly aggressive aesthetic was weaved into the costume. Moving on to number 9, Age of Apocalypse Logan. From Earth 295, this suit is Wolverine's outfit during the Age of Apocalypse timeline. Or should we say Weapon X, which is his name on this Earth. Anyway, Weapon X wears a blue costume with red tiger stripes. The character is missing a hand, thanks to an evil Cyclops, and has a metal gauntlet sans hand on his left arm, with his claws protruding out of it in some depictions. He also wears matching face paint. It's a look. After the main Age of Apocalypse story arc ended, later on down the line, Marvel decided to explore the timeline further, creating a new slew of stories, one of which involved Weapon X becoming Weapon Omega, the heir to Apocalypse. He got a shiny new armor-inspired suit that felt much more sinister than his original blue and red striped outfit.
At number 8, we've got Power Rangers Dino Thunder Green Ranger Jason David Frank, returned as Dor Tommy Oliver in this series. And despite having a cool narrative, there seems to be a mix of many ideas that went into the Rangers' costume designs. While the helmets are pretty cool and tie in well with the dinosaur motif, the excessive diamonds along the Rangers' legs and arms are a bit over excessive and overwhelming, TBH. So.
In at number 7, X-23 Wolverine. Laura Kinney, aka X-23, has taken up the mantle of her adoptive father in the past, so of course she has to have a correct suit to follow, despite having a very different style than her adoptive daddy Dearest, in terms of fighting. This costume takes inspiration from both the tiger stripe design he's boasted variations of over the years, and from his astonishing Wolverine outfit. It's a slightly darker tone of blue, borrowing a red and black chunky X-Men belt a la Uncanny training uniform, more on that one later, but is still familiar enough that we recognize her as Wolverine. And at number 6, Powerless Wolverine. Once upon a time, Logan lost his powers, and because of this, he had to be extra cautious. He had a suit to better protect him now that he was without his healing factor. It's a heavy-duty armor, yellow with a big black ol' X down the front, and is one of the more intensely padded outfits that he's donned. In addition to the extra armor protection, the suit also came equipped with wrist braces that had 3 claws mounted to them that he could pop out and use in battle. Good way to compensate for a hot second, we suppose. Up next, number 5, the training uniform from Uncanny X-Men. The X-Men training uniform that appears in the Uncanny X-Men series is so freaking cool. It's undeniable. And like many of the other looks that Wolvie is serving on this list, it's pretty darn iconic. This is also a look that inspired a lot of other looks in spin-off media. For example, Morph in the X-Men the Animated Series. And it's a costume that other X-Men later adopted as their own uniforms, like Forge and Banshee. Wolverine himself didn't seem to love it, wearing it barely once before putting it away forever. But damn, it looked good on him.
At number 4, Power Rangers Mystic Force. I guess they're wizards now? Mystic Force's designs felt a little off compared to the Rangers of the 90s that we adored. Released in 2006, this series was arguably trying to profit on the Harry Potter magic craze that had swept up in the hearts of their demographic. Except, rather than capitalize on it, it felt like a cheap ripoff. How did they see out of those awful helmets? What's with the lame insignia on their capes? Too many questions, not enough patience, moving on now.
Moving on to number 3, Astonishing Wolverine. The Astonishing Wolverine uniform felt a little bit like a victory for fans back in 2004. Now for a while, there was a phase where Wolverine wore a lot of black leather. This was a costume comeback, people. The reason why it's adored by so many fans over some of the other similar iterations of this yellow and black costume is that many of the more sharp or eccentric features of the suit were smoothed out. There's less jagged tiger stripes, the costume is working with thicker lines and an emphasis on perfect symmetry, and Wolverine's cowl was a little less pointed. It felt a tad more polished than other versions that we had seen in the late 70s and late 90s, and it felt wonderfully cohesive with the similar costumes his fellow X-Men had. Cohesive, but distinct in its own way. And at number 2, Red and Brown. The red and brown Wolverine costume is one of Logan's most prominent and well-remembered suits. Or is it tan and yellow? Oh, the questions. Now its popularity is thanks to it being one of his longest worn and consistent suits, enduring throughout the 1980s and the 1990s. This is a product of John Byrne's doing, who wanted to change the character's look and got to do so in Uncanny X-Men issue 139, which, fun fact, was also the debut of Kitty Pryde. The shoulder pads were ditched and the tiger stripes were gone. It's a costume Wolverine returned to during Wolverine Origins, the comic, and when he was brought back from the dead in Uncanny X-Men Volume 5. Good old reliable. But not as reliable as our next number. In at number 1, the classic yellow, black, and blue. The classic yellow, black, and blue Wolverine suit is arguably the one that we're all the most familiar with. Commonly referred to as classic yellow and blue, Logan has worn it for over 40 years. It's the definition of iconic, really. Remember how we said that Wolverine's whiskers were ditched when the character was introduced into Giant Size X-Men issue 1? Well, that's actually thanks to artist Gil Kane drawing Wolverine's mask incorrectly on the cover of this issue, giving him this look. Something that was criticized as being a Batman-like aesthetic thanks to the pointed cowl. But because artist Dave Cockrum loved the cover Kane did so much, he actually redrew the pages of Giant Size X-Men in order to match. And it's stuck ever since. Wolverine took a break from this costume during the 80s and 90s thanks to our previous number, but would return to it after learning his memories had been tampered with, as part of a visual declaration that he wasn't an animal, but an X-Man. A suit says a lot about the man or woman underneath it, people.